Black relationship dynamics. The rebuilding of the Black family and relationship. Fear, distrust, envy, and color or shade, colorism. Distrust. In order for a long-term effective breaking of a family structure to occur, there had to be a divide between the head figures of the family, the man and woman or father and mother. This tactic of distrust was most aimed at the woman to ensure that she would pass this same distrust to her children. She needed to be programmed to believe wholeheartedly that she could not rely on her counterpart for protection, economic security, or even trust him as a man of his word. I will now quote from the Willie Lynch letters themselves to illustrate. We reverse nature by burning and pulling one civilized Negro apart and bull-whipping the other to the point of death, and in her, the Black woman, presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with a male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles. For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent but physically strong. Because she has become psychologically independent, she will raise her female offspring psychologically independent. Fear. I can only pull from my own experiences and situations I've witnessed firsthand to convey only my opinion of how fear factors into our relationships with each other. However, this concept is not exclusive to our community for the simple fact that anyone that has been in a bad relationship has a fear of repeating it, the form of picking the same type of guy or girl. How this applies to the social engineering in our community is mostly seen in a woman's fear of taking care of a man and her being the head of household. These same women will display her distrust in Black men and will verbally abuse him, tell him he's worthless, and blame men for the future failure of Black men due to absentee fathers, and never one time putting any blame of the women that raised these men because of female bias. They will also never admit to them continuing the cycle of no good men by having children with these men and repeating the cycle of teaching their daughters to be strong and independent and not passing that same lesson to her sons. Now yes, the men are also at fault, but understand it's difficult for an adolescent male to be a man if he has never had that example set for him. Women must factor in that many of these men have only seen a woman in charge of a household and have not a clue of how to assert himself as a dominant figure in the family setting. Envy. This tactic, I can also say, is not exclusive to the Black community as well, because even though envy was a tool used to keep discourse amongst slaves, it's also a natural feature in humans. Even in the simplest form, like being happy to see a friend get married yet feeling a little envious because you haven't found that happiness for yourself. In today's music mostly marketed to the Black demographic, you see a narcissistic spin put to envy in the form of wanting others to be envious of you. Color or shade. Color and shade feed on our own self-hatred of ourselves taught to us in slavery. The idea that lighter skin is more beautiful and attractive. Also wanting our children to be born with good hair, and that then relates to envy because the darker Black men and women feel that have to compete with the lighter, more attractive counterpart, socially speaking. Only in more recent times has the beauty that is dark skin has been more appreciated. Sadly enough though, even today, going back in the realm of entertainment marketed to the Black demographic, we see young men like rapper Kodak Black make statements of him preferring to date light-skinned women due to his belief that are somehow more docile, not ghetto or ratchet, have better attitudes, and overall are just better than dark-skinned women. Rebuilding the Black family. I believe the first step to rebuild the Black family construct is to educate both Black men and women of the 400-year plan to keep them at odds and divided. I feel this will be hardest to do in women because they were the main target of the mental conditioning. Not saying that it will not be difficult to recondition the men, because their entire image of themselves has to be completely re-established, and an understanding of what manhood in a family-driven environment must be comprehended. First, men need to stand up and recognize their place as men in society. This, I believe, can occur when he rejects the social norms of what a Black man should be. These include but are not limited to social archetypes like drug dealer, drug addict, pimp, baby daddy, deadbeat dad, thug, criminal, convict, uneducated, unemployed, and the list goes on virtually endlessly. Rejecting these stereotypes will greatly increase the likelihood of Black men valuing themselves at a higher standard. Keep in mind, this is not an across-the-board assessment, because there are some men that do have positive male examples and still choose to adhere to the stereotypes that are put in place. Men must also learn to love and respect women as his peer and a partner. An understanding of power must be achieved in this new society, with the men being secondary figures in the black family where the woman is dominate. Many of the points made to help men to reform and start down the path to rebuild the black family also apply to the woman. Because she must also see her mate as a complement, and recognize him and love and respect him as the father of her children, as she is also the daughter of a man. I believe this will more difficult to do in women because of the generations of conditioning of putting the black woman ahead of the black man. It is this creation of the strong black woman that has continued to divide the black family. Typically, a woman's mental image of a man is her inferior, not her equal, leaving the strong black woman in a class all of her own when it comes to choosing a mate within her own demographic. The fear of settling for a man just for the sake of having a family is an issue many black women face in today's society. This is due to the fact in today's society black women are the second highest grossing group of women. Reassessment of black family. Look at the current condition of the black family, and attempt to get blacks to break the stigma of believing that counseling is something that white people do in order to begin both the healing process and re-education process to help individuals to identify these Willie Lynch social engineering traits within themselves and their mates to better the quality of their relationships with each other and their children. Redefine the value system used to choose a mate away from the financial base ideal that it is set at now and focus on the inner worth of a person. This does not mean finances are not important, but it should not be the foundation of you choosing a mate. Indeed, a difficult task in a finance-based society. Black single need to stop thinking in terms of my money and more of our money. Cars, clothes, jewelry are not to be used as a measure of a person's worth. A difficult task to undertake with social status defined by finances being at the forefront of most preteen and teenagers' mind, tying back into the tactic of envy used in Willie Lynch social engineering. Teenagers develop attributes that will follow them throughout their entire lives in all aspects of life, and dating is not excluded. Teenage girls, never comprehending that their teenage counterparts in early teen years are totally dependent on their parents the same way she is not having a job themselves, and yet still she will equate his worth on things like if he wears Jordan brand shoes, and how expensive his cell phone is. Teenage boys will solely base the worth of his teenage counterpart on her appearance, psychically only caring about her clothing as it relates to how they accentuate her figure. Even though teenagers, male and female, are completely running on hormones, they have two completely different expectations of what they believe to be desirable. Obviously, there has to be some physical attraction between both sexes, but do not let that become one of your pillars in seeking a relationship. Generally, adult men and women tend to seek similar traits in a mate. Someone that is encouraging to their ambitions, supportive and pushing them to be a better person. In today's society, the women are usually already well into their careers when compared to the men. So already that can have a negative prejudgment toward the men as lacking in ambition and drive. This is due to the fact that there aren't the same resources available to the black man as there are for the black woman. Thanks for watching.